Okay, so people are trickling in, but let's go ahead and get started. I'll stop sharing my screen here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this evening's program. Thank you for joining us tonight for LGBTQIA 101, an introduction to the community and allyship. Thank you to our partners on tonight's event, the Depot and Lighthouse, for making this program possible. I'm Sarah McCarty, the Thriving Youth Program Director at the Community Fund of Darien. Thriving Youth Darien is a volunteer coalition convened by the Community Fund of Darien that brings together local organizations to promote and empower positive youth development and mental health with the goal of reducing teen substance use. In partnership with Darien Public Schools, last year, Thriving Youth surveyed nearly 2,000 Darien 6th through 12th grade students about their mental health and substance use patterns. Their responses showed us areas of greatest concern and help us and other local youth-focused organizations create educational programming for parents and teens like this one. Some key findings from our survey showed that LGBTQ plus youth are struggling with many of the risk factors for substance use and mental health issues. Having an adult in their life who is supportive and accepting helps to safeguard against those risk factors. Tonight, we will be learning about the LGBTQIA plus community and how you can be supportive and welcoming for teens in your life. We are pleased to welcome community organizer and educator Justin Zeigler, who is leading tonight's program. Justin spent his career in youth and community development and is passionate about creating relationships and communities that foster connection. His experience in rural, urban, and suburban environments has allowed him to support a wide breadth of communities. Justin holds a bachelor's degree in theater, dance, and religious studies from Luther College, as well as a master's of divinity from St. Paul School of Theology. He and his husband live in Madison, Connecticut. And a few final housekeeping notes about this evening. This event will be recorded, and we will plan to make the recording available on the Thriving Youth Darien resource page. We'll send all this information in an email once the video is processed. I also want to encourage you to ask questions throughout the program using the chat at the bottom of your screen. As I mentioned earlier, everything is anonymous, so all questions can only be seen by myself and Justin. And now I'll turn it over to Justin to get us started.
All right. Hi, everybody. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here and talking with folk from around the country, I believe. So it's really great to be together. And I want to jump in, but I also want to say, please, 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 I work best with questions and I work with children, which means I work best being interrupted. So do not hesitate to throw a question in the chat. And if I see it, I'll answer it as quickly as possible, or yeah, we'll keep on going. So I'm going to share my screen and take us through some learning together. All right. And I believe are we good with seeing the screen?
All good.
All right, cool. So LGBTQIA plus 101, and I like to jump in with doing some learning right away. So you may have noticed around it's June, which is Pride Month, and you may have noticed some different rainbow flags around in your community, at your home, and you might be wondering, wait, I've had people ask me before, what pride flag should I use? There seems to be a lot out there. So first of all, on June 25th, 1978, a man named Gilbert Baker created the rainbow pride flag that many people know. So the red, the orange, yellow one that you can see right here. And back in 2017, a non-binary American artist named Daniel Kazar, for the Philadelphia Pride Festival, took that work from Gilbert, who actually I've met Gilbert. He is an bizarrely interesting human being, very kind man. But Daniel, who's a non-binary artist, took that and added in the trans identity colors, which are the pink, the blue, and the white, because oftentimes trans folk feel like they get lost in the mix within the LGBTQ community. But also in the flag here that's added are the black and the brown, which stand for our family of color, our folk of color. Because also often feeling the idea of the race identity being lost within the LGBTQI plus community. So this is what's known as the progress flag. What I'll say is there's no wrong way to fly a pride flag. Put the whatever flag feels best to you up. I can tell you that it is heartwarming and beautiful and wonderful to see pride flags, but this is the one that's generally more used in our community now, which is known as, again, the progress flag, which represents a little bit of everybody and anybody in the community.
Hey Justin,
So,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. It looks
yeah.
like there's a little black bar on top of the screen, kind of blocking some of the words. Do you want to try unsharing and resharing and see if that fix? Oh, there we go.
Do we get
I
it?
think that fixed it.
All right, perfect.
Thanks.
Cool.
Sorry.
Thank you. No, I told you I work best with introductions and interruptions. All right. So a few norms for tonight. When you are sharing, I ask you to speak your truth, but also know that others are going to speak theirs. Experience discomfort, don't push away from it. Learning things is always uncomfortable, and that's okay. Expect and accept non-closure. Answers you have might not be completely answered tonight, and that's perfectly okay. I'll also give you my email at the end if you want to chat more. Lead with curiosity. That's just a general good life rule. Step up, step back. Now, we're not having a whole lot of back and forth, but if you're the kind of person that doesn't share and doesn't talk in groups like this, I invite you to step up and share as much as possible. And if you're the kind of person that, like myself, that tends to speak a lot and share a lot in these groups, I invite you to step on back, maybe do some listening. Take care of yourself. If you like we said, this is being recorded, so if you need to step away, eat, breathe, do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Know that there's no quick fix, and understand I really actually do want you to interrupt me, ask questions, but also be okay if we need to move along. So those are our norms we're working with tonight, and I appreciate you living with them. So who am I? I'm Justin Zeigler. I use he, him, his pronouns. I am the Assistant Director of Madison Youth and Family Services, and I'm in charge of community support, which means I support our social services department, and I run our drug and alcohol prevention coalition. I'm also certified as a sexual education facilitator. So I really like having these kinds of conversations. I really like sharing about identity in this way. So that's who I am. And I would love if you could jump in the chat for me, share your name and your pronouns and one way that you identify. So I would love to hear your name. So, for example, mine is Justin. Your pronouns, example, mine are he, him. Yours could be she, her, could be they, them. And one way you identify. I identify as a native Iowan. I am from the great state of Iowa, and that's one way that I identify. And I'm going to go to the chat. I would love to see. Let's see. Oh, we're seeing the presenter view. Oh, that's okay. Hi, Katie. How are you? If you could jump in the chat and put in one thing that you identify as. Ooh, we got James, he, him. We got Jenny, Korean American. We got Patrick, straight dude from Arkansas, stuck in Missouri and loves Justin. Hi, Patrick. What else we got, y'all? Ooh. Kim, she, her. She's an Iowan clergywoman. James, hi, Jim. In Durham. He identifies as he, him. We'll wait for one more person to put in. I know you can do that. Katie, she, her. English, Swedish. Oh my gosh, Italian. Megan, she, her. Ally and mom. Angelica, she, her mom. Jennifer, she, her. Caretaker. All right, y'all. I really, really, really love and appreciate all of these identities. And here's the thing. Identity is this crazy, big, huge, fascinating, big thing. And tonight we're going to be talking about one aspect of it. I heard people's vocations. I heard people's hobbies. I heard where people were located. There's lots of different ways that we identify. All of them are beautiful. All of them are wonderful. And tonight we're just going to talk about a handful of them. So, why so many letters? LGBTQIA and the plus. So, again, I would really invite you, if I say a thing and you get a little confused and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? Please stop me and let me know. But L stands for lesbian. And lesbian is a term that generally stands for a person who identifies as a woman who is attracted sexually to another person who is identified as a woman. G stands for gay, which can be really interesting because it is one of those, what I like to call umbrella terms, or what's known as an umbrella term. Gay can be a person who identifies as a man who is sexually attracted to another person identified as a man, or it could mean anybody in the LGBTQI plus community. Sometimes lesbians might identify as gay, sometimes bisexual people might identify as gay. So it could be really specifically a man attracted to a man, or it could be an umbrella term for any of those other letters. B stands for bisexual. We're going to talk a little bit more about the spectrum of gender, but bisexual is a person generally who is attracted to somebody who could be attracted to somebody who identifies as male or somebody who identifies as female. So bi means they are attracted to people on ends of the gender spectrum. T stands for transgender. Now, transgender is another one of those umbrella terms. It could mean anything from somebody who, the way I like to say it is they were born and the doctor said, it's a boy, and they turned 12 years old and they said, no, I'm not. Not that all transgender people know at 12, or 12 is a magic age, just a story there. But what that means is that somebody who does not identify with their gender assigned at birth. Now, that means that person could have transitioned socially, as in they dress differently. It could be a person that has transitioned surgically or chemically. They take medicine, they go to a doctor, or they've had a surgery. It could mean anything to a large amount of people. And I keep on saying generally because there is no one way to be transgender. There is no one way to be gay or lesbian or bisexual. It could mean lots of different things to lots of different people. And so a lot of times it's about asking someone, well, that's awesome. What does that exactly mean? Or when I'm working with young people, that I actually have to ask that, like, what does that mean to you? And understanding when they share something like that. So Q stands for queer or questioning. Now, queer is a hot button issue with some folk. I like to use the word queer. I identify as a queer person. Queer just means everybody in this umbrella of LGBTQIA+. It's just a quicker way to say it. What I will say is that, for example, I grew up in a space and a time where that was used to attack, to hurt. And so in the past 10, 20 years, the community has been reclaiming it and saying, that's our word, you can't use it against us. You can't hurt us with it. So queer is actually a very powerful and useful word. But there are people that still don't quite understand that, so it's hard to use. Now, I've had straight friends who have said, now, can I use the word queer? And I would say, sure, but know that there are people. I have friends, for example, that I do not use the word queer in front of because I know it really hurts them and they don't like the word. So I would say, go for it, use it, but also know that some people don't like when that word is used. It could also stand for questioning. I've heard it used in that way. So somebody who is trying to figure out where they are on this whole gender and sexuality spectrum. So queer, go ahead and use the term if you're comfortable with it. You don't have to if you don't want to. I tend to like it, but that's what that is. I stands for intersex. Intersex is a person that would generally have the anatomy of somebody who would be gendered male and somebody who would be gendered female. Or it's ambiguous. They're either their sex organs, it could be their DNA, but intersex has to do with the biology of a person. And it could be that you would not know, right? It could be internal organs, there could be external organs, it could be lots of things. So that's I for intersex. A stands for asexual and aromantic. An asexual person is a person that does not have sexual attraction towards other people. Aromantic is somebody who does not maybe is sexually attracted to other folk, but not necessarily romantically attracted to anybody. So that would be asexual or aromantic. And plus is all the other ways that you could identify. Now, I work with 6th grade through 12th grade students, and I have 7th graders that are coming to me and they'll say, I am, and they'll say a word that I'm like, I literally have no idea what that is. Like, you got to tell me what that is. And so it's a really fun moment to say, wow, I think that's great and wonderful. And thank you so much for sharing with me. But I honestly, could you please tell me more about that? Or what does that mean to you? And you give them the chance to educate. The thing I want to say over and over and over, if you're actually asking with a curious heart and a curious mind, it's okay to ask someone a question. It's okay to ask somebody what that means. It's okay to ask somebody what their pronouns are. As long as you're doing it with kindness in your heart and a positive intention, it's 99.9% of the time taken that way. And again, I'm going to give you my email at the end of this whole thing. So if you were like, I don't know about this, go ahead and send me an email and ask me a question. All right, we're going to move on. Do not hesitate to throw a question in the chat. I would love it. All right, so this is my friend, the gender unicorn. I love this image. It's crazy helpful, especially when working with families and children. So the gender unicorn, if you notice the green dot, that is that gender unicorn's gender expression. So that is how they are walking through the world. So usually when I do this presentation, I ask folk, what would a housewife be expected to wear in the 1950s? And they usually tell me a skirt, high heels, have their hair done, have their makeup done. That is a gender expression. That woman is expected to walk through the world and look that very specific way. So that is what gender expression is. Somebody's gender expression could be feminine, it could be masculine, it could be androgynous, it could be either, but it's generally how they walk through the world and how they present themselves. Now, gender identity, if you'll notice the rainbow, it's how the unicorn is thinking of themselves. And that is when when the unicorn looks in the mirror, that is what they see and what they know about themselves. They know that they're a female, a woman, a girl, a male, a man, a boy, one of the other hundreds of genders, or somewhere else on the spectrum that person could be. We also know that we talked about with intersex that this could be someone's sex assigned at birth. That's another way that we identify here. So that could be male, it could be female, it could be intersex. So that is like with the DNA helix. And a lot of times we think around chromosomes, we think around DNA, we think about anatomy. That is sex assigned at birth. We also have people that we're physically attracted to, right? So that's the kind of person that when they walk in the door, you're like, oh, I'm seeing that. I notice you, right? That is the person's physically attracted to. But we also have people that we're emotionally attracted to. So that is somebody that like when they walk through the door, you're like, oh, I love that person. Oh, I love that kind of person, right? So some people are emotionally attracted to women, some people men, some people both. Some people are emotionally attracted to men, but physically attracted to women. Some people have a gender expression of feminine, a gender identity, like they maybe express themselves more feminine, but they identify as a man. And maybe they're physically attracted to women, but they're emotionally attracted to men. So what I'm trying to say is it's a smorgasbord, y'all. You could be a little bit of any of these things at any end of the spectrum. So I'm seeing some questions pop in the chat. I just want to double check it real quick. Do you think this is good to have a conversation with kids? I think this chart is amazing at working with kiddos. I think it's super, super helpful. And I think it's really great. All right. So this question, the acronym continues to expand, and the point is now cumbersome. And to people who are not familiar with the meanings, I think it fosters more misunderstandings and labeling rather than understanding and inclusivity. Will other people and letters be added in the future? I feel everyone should be accepted for their identity. So what I would say with that is I totally understand this idea of this idea of labeling. But we're going to talk a little bit more about why language is really, really important. Hi, Mom. My mom just wrote mom and dad. Mom's here. My mom's here. But I would say that it's really, really important. So, having your identity known and having a name with your identity can be life-saving, especially for young people. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but I really appreciate the thought. All right, we're going to move on a bit. If I can get this, there we go. So spectrum. Gender and sexuality is understood on a spectrum. So what that means is that for example, when I was talking about bisexual people, male and female, well, those are two ends of the spectrum, but we exist everywhere in between, right? There's some people that are really, really butch and some people that are really, really femme, and we're all somewhere in the spectrum. Gender, and especially with sexuality. Sometimes people say I'm exclusively attracted to men. Some people say I'm exclusively attracted to women. Some people say I'm pan. It is everywhere and anywhere. So what I want us to understand is that it's people can be on anywhere on the spectrum, and that's okay. And that's why those labels, while they're really sometimes confusing, can be really, really important because it communicates to each other. It communicates. That's what language is for, to say right now, this is who I am and this is where I stand, right? And so one of the things that we use are pronouns. Part of the English language, they, them, their pronouns, they're just like she and her. They are just what some people use, not everybody, but some people use in order to say, I'm not either exclusively male or female, or I'm neither of those things. I exist somewhere else in the spectrum. So what I would say with this is what I want us to do is do a really quick activity. So I'd love you to close your eyes. I trust you're doing it. And I want you to imagine your favorite teacher from elementary school. What did they teach? What did they wear? What was your favorite thing they did? What did you love about them? So if you noticed, I had no idea what the gender of your favorite teacher was. So I had to use they, them as a singular pronoun. Pronouns are what we use in place of nouns when we don't know the noun. And since I didn't know the gender, I had to use they and them. It's perfectly grammatically correct, and we do it all the time. It's just when somebody chooses, or not even chooses, when they say, these are my pronouns, that's what we have to do. We need to respect their pronouns. It's about respecting people. Yeah, that's what I want to say about pronouns for now. And we're going to keep on moving. So I love data. And if you look at this Gallup poll from 2020, so it's already a little old, a little outdated, but I think it's helpful. Notice what happens the younger people get. So if we look at the boomers, they are 2% likely to identify as LGBT. And if you look at Gen Z currently, they are 15.9% likely to identify as LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, or trans. There's a lot of reasons that this could be. This could be that because we are putting more labels and names on things, people are realizing, oh, that's what I am. We are creating safer spaces in our churches, in our schools, in our homes, in our families for people to be authentically who they are. The more we do that, the more likely someone is going to say, oh, that's me too. I have lots of friends who, whether they're gay or trans or somewhere in the queer community, they'll say, like, I didn't even know this was a thing. I didn't know what this was. And I can even say for myself, like, I'm a millennial. I'm an elder millennial, born in '84. Um, but even then, I didn't have a whole lot of examples of what it looked like to be a queer person. I couldn't really name it. I couldn't really say it. I knew I was not the same as everyone else in my community, or what I felt was like everyone else in my community. But it was definitely harder for me to figure it out because I didn't have as many examples. Now, as we create safer spaces for folk, the easier it is for folk to identify. So that's one of the arguments for why more and more people are identifying. Yeah, so some more stats to know. An LGBTQI plus student is 40% less likely to attempt suicide if they have a supportive adult in their life. 40% less likely. This is why those words matter. This is why those pronouns matter, because a young person feels supported when you say, I see you and I hear you and I love you and I'm going to support you no matter what. I get a little choked up because it's very important to me. 40% less likely to attempt suicide. So this is not just a nice thing to do, it saves lives. Lesbian, gay, bisexual folk are twice as likely to struggle with mental health issues than our straight friends. Trans folk are 4 times more likely to struggle with mental health issues as opposed to cis folk. So cis means somebody whose gender identity matches their identity assigned at birth. So I am a man, and when the doctor handed me to my parents, they said, it's a boy. I'm a cis person. LGBT youth have a 120% higher risk of homelessness than their straight peers. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about that. We've chatted there. So I would love to hear from you, and throw it in the chat. How do you think having a deeper comfortability with this information shapes the way, or would shape if you became more and more comfortable, the way you work, the way you parent or grandparent, and the way you engage in friendships and community? So throw in the chat, how do you think having a deeper comfortability with this information impacts maybe the way you work in the world? Katie asks, is it best to default they, them if you are unsure? Answer that question real quick while other folks are putting in. I would say if you're unsure, it's best to ask someone what their pronouns are. If you really are looking at somebody and you don't know, it's really kosher. It's okay to say, what are your pronouns? But I would also say if you accidentally misgender someone, I use they, them when I don't know. Yeah, I do use they, them when I don't know. And I might ask, and if I accidentally misgender someone and I use they, them, and they're like, actually, I use he, him, I apologize and move on. That's all it is. You just have to apologize and move on. And it's one of those things where you just do your best to offer grace and do it with a whole heart. So if anyone could pop in, how is this going to impact the way you parent, grandparent, engage in friendships? What do y'all think? Ooh. I think it's important to verbally and publicly be an ally, even if you don't think someone is listening or doesn't apply to the people, because you never know. I would agree. Not for reading aloud. I may be more aware of my own gender bias, therefore be more approachable and possibly seen as a resource. 100%. When we share with folk, and when we act in a way that is really about being kind and loving and respectful towards one another, you're seen as a resource. Let's see. Ooh, I try to be aware of using inclusive language when talking to your kids. I know Megan's kids, they're lovely. I make a conscious effort to tell them about all the different families and relationships. I encourage my boys to be themselves and wear what they want. The hard part is that not every family is like that, and sometimes kids can be mean. And I think it takes a whole lot for us to support our young people in being who they are. It impacts my occupation as I'm a pastor. I want to include everyone in my community. My son identifies as aromantic and just let me know this last year. He dates a bisexual girl. So this is good information for me to learn about. Good point. Also changing habits like saying you guys. Totally. Oh, I say you guys all the time. Not everybody in the room is a guy. So it's really, really hard to say that. Also, kudos to Pastor Kim in the space for wanting to create really strong community and making sure that every single person has access to all the resources and things that they want. All right. So I'm wanting to make sure. All right. So here's some more terms, and pop things in the chat if you want to pop in the chat. So genderqueer. Genderqueer is a person whose identity is not just a man and is not a woman. This person can identify, this can be different things to different people. So genderqueer is a term that is used for someone who is like, it's not, their identity is neither, right? Like they're neither male, they're female. Genderqueer is another one of those umbrella terms that could be a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Gender fluid. So this is a person whose identity or gender expression is not fixed. It can shift over time and depends on the situation. So I work with a handful of gender fluid students. 9 times out of 10, they'll let me know. They'll say, we'll be talking and I'll use a she, her in regards to them. And they'll let me know that that's not their identity currently. Which is awesome. I apologize and we move on. Again, I'm trying to let you know it's really okay to screw up. It's really, really okay to screw up. And it's really, really okay to apologize and let them know that you see them and you're doing your best. That is what it means to be one of those supportive adults who supports kiddos and lets them be themselves. Pansexual. So you may have heard this term before. And these are people who are capable of being attracted to multiple sexes or gender identities. So this person, bisexual would generally mean male or female only, and pansexual is more of this person could be attracted to a trans person, this person could be attracted to a gender queer person, this person really could be attracted to anybody, yeah. Asexual, we talked about. Intersex, we talked about. Queer, again, we talked about. It's this broad term, this broad umbrella term. Speaking of umbrella terms, non-binary is an umbrella term for a person who identifies with or expresses a gender identity that is neither male nor female. So non-binary means we have this idea of the spectrum. And on one end of the spectrum, we have male and female. So that's a binary. That's two. And so a person who is non-binary says, yeah, I really don't identify as anything like that is that, right? So this person could be gender fluid. This person could be androgynous. That's neither specifically masculine nor feminine. This person could be gender non-conforming. So one whose physical or behavioral characteristics do not correspond to the expectations of their gender. This is, I'm not saying that these people are gender non-conforming necessarily, but there's lots of celebrities who maybe people who identify as male and maybe even people who identify as straight men who will dress in clothing that is more identified as feminine. So like a dress or a skirt or paint their nails. Genderqueer, one who does not identify with a single fixed gender. So all of these fit under the umbrella of non-binary. Okay, we're going to come back to this YouTube video. I want to come back to it. We're going to do a few more things first. So, are there any terms? I'm going to give us a little bit of time. Are there any terms? All right. Ooh, we have a question in the chat. Kathy asked, you mentioned saying, hey guys, and said the group isn't always all guys. I say this all the time to my girlfriends when there's really not even guys in the mix, for example. What do you guys want to do now? Should I stop saying this? Is this offensive? Really great question. I would offer, Kathy, one, I don't necessarily think the word offensive would come to mind, but I do think it's important for us to reflect on our language. And I do my best to say y'all, even though I'm not from Texas, I am married to someone from Texas. I say y'all a lot because I don't know people's gender. I wouldn't say it's offensive, but there could be somebody in the room that has been called a guy their entire life and they don't identify as a guy and they don't like it when somebody calls them guy. I get caught up in this a lot. I say you guys or I say man, even to my female friends. I'm like, what's up, man? Um, and that just assumes this person's gender identity or calls them a man when they're not. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily offensive, but I would say it's something that I try not to do for various reasons. Right. Let's see. I'm going to go down. Can a straight person be gender nonconforming? I say friends a lot, says Katie. 100% a straight person can be gender nonconforming. I'm thinking, um, I'm thinking of Mr. Harry Styles, who I actually don't know Harry Styles if he's straight or not, but I think he's straight, or I assuming that's an assumption on my part. And I would say he's a pretty non-gender conforming person. Yes, you can be, like we talked about with the unicorn, you can be a mix of whatever you are. You could be a cisgender man, so somebody who is born and the doctor said it's a boy, and you identify as a boy, and that boy could be attracted to girls or women, um, and be gender nonconforming, and which could mean maybe to them they wear a dress sometimes, or they anything, right? This person is a straight cisgender person who is non-conforming. Katie says she says friends a lot, and I am one of Katie's friends, and she does. So yeah. So are minor attracted persons, also known as pedophiles, under the LGBTQ plus umbrella? I consider myself an ally, and I have been told many times that umbrella is problematic because it includes minor attracted persons. I want to be clear. No. um, I would argue absolutely not. We are talking about consensual adults. And at times, the idea of pedophilia has been looped into the LGBTQIA plus community, and it has no place for it. We are talking about adults. We are talking about adults and other consenting adults, adult humans and other consenting humans. When I was in seminary, and this was before marriage was legal in the United States, same-sex marriage was legal in the United States, everywhere. I would have people argue with me that if we blessed same-sex unions or gave them legal rights, we would have to give people who wanted to marry dogs the same rights. That is ludicrous. We are not talking about people who are attracted to children. That is something that somebody needs some psychiatric help for. And we are not talking about people who are attracted to dogs. Again, somebody who needs psychiatric support. We are talking about consensual adults who are in relationship and seeking relationship with other consensual adults. I would love to be clear about that. Awesome. So I want you to again close your eyes. I'm a big eye close kind of guy. Thank you very much for that question. I really appreciate it. That brought out some really good information. So I want you to think about the last time you were really understood. Maybe you had a conversation with your best friend, with your sister, with your parent, with your partner. Um, when's the last time you felt completely understood? How did it feel? Remember that feeling. That is why these terms are important. Because when someone calls you by the right name, when somebody uses the right pronoun for you, when somebody takes your identity and is really like great and moves on and there's no questions about it, I can't tell you what a psychiatric burden that lifts. That's why it's important to be an ally. That's why it's important to support our young people and our adults even, um, because this world isn't always so kind. And sometimes it really hurts. And sometimes you just need those people in your life who get it. And I would ask that you would strive to be that person in someone's life, right? So we're going to move to our next slide. Oh, all right. So when I work with my young people, again, I work with 6th through 12th graders. I always tell them, especially my queer kiddos, we have been here all along. Like we are not some magic fad that popped up a couple of years ago. Queer people have always been here. Um, let's see, we have in the subcontinent of in India, the subcontinent, there has been trans, feminine, third gender communities. So a lot of times in different cultures, not just the Western culture, there are multiple genders. People who are, and and these people have historically been seen as sacred, as special, as magical, as amazing human beings, and they've been celebrated and lifted up. Um, that's important for our young people to know. The first time that the first time the word homosexual appeared was in 1869. 1869, isn't that crazy? That's not too long ago. But we've just that's just the first time there was a word for it, right? Again, this is not extensive. This is just what we have right now. So I want to point out Christine Jorgensen. She in 1952, she had a gender confirmation surgery. So it's formally known as gender reassignment surgery. So Christine was born, identified as male, and had surgery. And she was I believe, a World War II pilot. And she was on the cover of Life magazine as Christine Jorgensen. So you can't tell me that trans issues are brand new or that you didn't know about trans folk because Christine was on Life magazine in 1952 and she was considered beautiful and gorgeous. Like, look her up on YouTube, these like amazing newsreels of this beautiful trans woman. Um, let's see. I want to bring up Marsha P. Johnson, part of the early queer liberation movement. So the grassroots fights for trans rights became more publicly visible against the police in 1959 in the Cooper Donuts riot, 1966 in the Compton's cafeteria riot, and in 1969 the Stonewall riot. And what I will add is that the Stonewall riot is what is traditionally seen as the reason that we have our Pride movement in June, because the Stonewall riot happened in New York City. It happened at the Stonewall Inn. In that time, in '69, it was illegal for men to dance with each other. A gay bar was pretty much illegal, and the police would go in and they would pull people out, and they would arrest them. The police would make sure that the newspapers knew that there would be the police make sure that the newspapers knew that they would be busting a gay bar, so that these people's faces would be splashed all over. And in '69, that would destroy your life and ruin your life. And people like Marsha P. Johnson were really, really tired of it. Specifically, Black trans women started the Stonewall riots and fought against the police and made it possible for us to have today's conversation. They really started the queer liberation movement. That's why we're here today, and that's why we're learning, and that's why Pride Month is in June, because it happened in June. If you want to talk to me more about the Stonewall riots, love it. Let's chat. All right. Do you want to be an ally? Use appropriate pronouns. It's really, really hard to come out as LGBTQIA plus. And if somebody shares a pronoun with you, use it. Use it appropriately. If someone has come out to you, do not share their story. Do not let other folks know unless they have told you specifically it is okay. Listen, do your best to be understanding. You might not have had the same experience as folk, but just do your best to understand. Use your power. Where can you look around and see that things need to change in your world, in your church, in your office, to make sure that other folk have access to everything that they need and are that they have everything that they need. And that sometimes involves a fight. I will tell you, I worked for an agency once where we had two single stall bathrooms. One was male, one was female. And I was like, well, they're single stalls. So do we really need a gender on it? Because there could be somebody trans in here. And when I said, hey, let's degender these bathrooms and just put any gender on the door because only one person can be there at a time anyway, I was told we didn't have the budget for new bathroom signs. I will tell you, you have to fight sometimes. You have to fight. Make yourself a clear and obvious ally. Wear the shirt, put up the sticker, hang the flag. Our kids need to see and hear it. Speak up. If someone makes a joke that you think is ridiculous and gross and awful, say it. And this is old. Did you know that gay men just got the right within the past year to give blood to the Red Cross? So I need to change that slide. Gay men did you know gay men just got the right to give blood? It's ridiculous. So donate. If there is an org that you know that helps LGBTQI plus issues, donate. That could be the Human Rights Campaign. That could be the Trevor Project. That could be your local, if you're in Connecticut, your Youth and Family Service Bureau often supports folks. That could be like Darien Youth Thriving. Support these folks. They're helping out our queer kiddos. We need to help them. Let people know your pronouns. So if you are on the Zoom call, put your name with your pronouns. Why? Why do I put Justin, he, him? You're looking at me. I have a beard. I look like a he, him. I sound like a he, him. Well, it's not fair that everybody can look at me and assume my pronouns, and that one person in the room might have to say their pronouns to everybody. The trans person has to share their pronouns with everybody. So it makes it safe that people can do that. I also say put it on your email signature line, just saying your name and he, him, she, her, they, them, whatever it is. And if you don't know how to do that, give me an email and I will walk you through it step by step. If you work with students, know their rights. Did you know that Title IX gives LGBTQI students a right to a GSA? Study up and know, if you work with young people, know their rights. And never pretend you don't know what you don't know. So never pretend you know what you don't know, actually. If a student or a young person says something or asks something and you have no idea what they're saying, ask them. And this is dangerous. Maybe Google it. Try to trust, go to trustworthy sites. Or give me a call, give me an email, ask me. So I work with two groups, Rainbow Lounge, which is our 6th through 8th graders, and GASP, which is our 9th through 12th graders, which is gender and sexuality program here in the Madison school districts. And I have a picture up right now, and this was a project of the Rainbow Lounge and GASP. This is our pride flag that flies over Madison, Connecticut every June. And the reason I have it on the slide is because our young people asked for it. And it took a lot of work for them to go to our town council. And I can't tell you how beautiful it was that a 7th grader stood up, a 7th grader who does not like being seen or talking to people, stood up in front of the entire town council and people present and explained why they needed the pride flag up during June. We just put the pride flag up, took a field trip over town campus to watch it happen. I can share with you, it is beautiful and wonderful to know you have a community that has your back, to know you have a community that sees you, that loves you, that supports you. It's great. So that is some of the work that we're doing here in Madison. And I want to save a little bit of time for questions. But my name is Justin Zeigler. You can get a hold of me at justin@verygayverybusy.com. Yes, that is my actual email, justin@verygayverybusy.com. If you just want to get together, if you're in Connecticut, you want to have a cup of coffee, if you want to have a Zoom chat, if you're not in the Connecticut area, or you just want to let me know something, by all means, please reach out and I'm happy to do so. And I know we wanted to save a little bit of time for some questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to go to the chat here. Let's see. I went to Pride Tour in NYC with my students, highly recommended. Can a student deny a student's identity on the behest of their parents? That is a really, really great question, Katie. I would say I'm not 100% sure on the answer of that. The laws are changing all the time, so I would tell you to study up. Can a school deny a student's identity? This has been so informative. Do you have any suggestions? Websites where can a school deny a student's identity on the behest of their parents? So what I would say is that parents still have a whole lot of rights over their children. I don't want to what I would say there, but students do still have the right to be called what they want. I don't know about changing their names in specific systems. We had our youngest students asked to change their identity, and parents didn't want us to acknowledge it, and the school made a policy in support of the student. That's awesome. So I would say, double check your school's policies. I know Katie works at a school. Double check your school's policies. And triple check to see what your young people's rights are. I know in Madison, Connecticut specifically, young people do have the right to be known socially as whatever name they want to be known as, but it's often very hard to change their name in the system, so that like report cards get sent out. And when I talk to young people, I often say, if they tell me a name that's different than the name that mom and dad or mom and mom call them, I'll ask them, is this something I can call you here? Is this something I can call you when I'm talking to your parents? Is this something I can call you when I'm in the hall? Right? Like, I let young people know that coming out is more complicated than just saying I'm gay or I'm trans or this is my identity. Sometimes we want to let certain people in, and sometimes we want to keep certain people out, right? So it's not so much coming out as in letting in. And when somebody lets me in, I want to know the boundaries of that. I want to know, okay, when I'm talking to your dad, what gender pronoun should I use? When I'm talking to your mom, what name should I use to keep you safe? Because maybe they feel really safe with me and not so safe with mom and dad. So that's what I would say about that. Megan asked, this has been, do you have any suggested websites where we can buy pride flags and support our LGBTQI plus organization? Gosh, Megan, Amazon, I know it's not great, but you can always go to Amazon. Human Rights Campaign is an amazing. If you are looking for more information and you're a little confused and you want some more in-depth stuff, the Human Rights Campaign has a really great website, so I would suggest that. I would also say the Trevor Project. Google the Trevor Project. It's an amazing organization that supports LGBTQI plus young people and supports their mental health. Has a suicide hotline. I've done some volunteer work with them. They're amazing. Yeah. Are there any other questions, comments, needs from the group? Next time, Kim would love to do lunch with me next time I'm in Emmitsburg, which is my hometown. I would love to too, Kim, coming in the summer. I will not read out loud. This training is so real and insightful. I work with the Youth-Led Prevention Coalition. We tried to create a social media toolkit last year, but it quickly ended all the overwhelming social norms. I'll bring this presentation back to see if we can revitalize this project. Awesome. I am so happy to help. I know how difficult it is to work with young people and work in this space and work in this kind of identity. It can be really hard. It can be really hard. So it's lovely to make community and it's lovely to be together. Awesome. Lizbeth, good job, Justin. Thanks, Mom. Are there any other questions? See our time. We have about 3 minutes left. So this is what I'll say. This is what I'll say. I will say one, tell people you love them. That's it. That's really it. And tell people you love them by your actions. Tell people you love them by showing them respect. Tell people you love them by literally telling them you love them. And especially our young people who need it, and especially our queer community who needs it. There's a reason that our young people who are queer identified struggle more with mental health, with substance use. Our adults struggle with substance use, with their mental health. Just show them love. That's all you got to do. And do your best and apologize when you don't quite get there. And if you have any questions about how to get there, I'm so happy to walk with you and figure it out. So thank you so much for joining tonight. I know it was a quick time.
Thank you so much, Justin, for sharing all these insights with us. I know I personally learned a lot tonight. This was really an amazing presentation. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I hope everyone leaves here with a better understanding of the LGBTQIA plus community and how you can support the youth and adults in your lives. We're going to send a follow-up email to everyone who registered for tonight's event that will include a recording of the program in case you want to rewatch it or share it with anyone, as well as links to more information. So thank you again for joining us tonight, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you all.